There we go. Okay. So yes, back in over the last couple of years, there have been a lot of changes in online learning policy, formally changed to being called online learning rather than distributed learning. And only a select number of schools in the public and independent system were chosen to have the ability to offer educational programming to students regardless of their geography in the province. So thankfully, we've been able to continue doing what we have done since 2002 and serving people throughout British Columbia and beyond. Many people out on mission trips and things like that are living in other parts of the country temporarily. As long as they maintain a permanent residence in British Columbia, then we're able to serve them. We have a background as registering a lot of homeschoolers. So in our origins, Traditional Learning Academy was the largest registrar of traditional homeschoolers in BC, and registering about 3,500 students at our peak in the early 2000s. Since that peak, there have been changes in how the ministry, the flexibility, let's say, of the education required and the curricular requirements. So many families have become more comfortable with enrolling and receiving the assistance from the school and meeting the learning standards and outcomes, as it were, of the BC curriculum. So over the years, the balance has shifted to being more enrolled and fewer registered, but we still do offer both options here at TLA. And I do know how to, okay, just a little bit about me. These pictures are now a couple years old. My kids would be terribly embarrassed to see themselves portrayed in this light. So I've been married since 2002. I did change the years here. It says 9th year as principal. My staff keep telling me it's my 10th, so I'll trust them. It's actually 10. I have 4 children. I am a FISA board member as the Federation of Independent Schools Association. So in these last few years of advocacy for online learning, have been very busy ones in terms of helping with some policy work and advocacy for the continuing existence of some of the online schools. And yeah, just some things I'd like to do in my spare time. I like playing basketball. In fact, tonight after this meeting, I'm going to go play basketball uh, and uh, enjoy music, hiking, traveling, boating, fishing when I can, camping. Go. So well, I encouraged the rest of the leadership team to update any slides that they may not have updated after our last one. I myself forgot to update our new vision and mission here, but this still captures our vision and purpose. Our our former vision statement was strong families and lifelong learners. Certainly that is still accurate. We are, as mentioned, a community of Christian educators, although we serve families of all faiths, of no faith. Our mission really is to support the family in their whatever they are imparting in their home environment. We have folks from all different denominations, and as a school, we aren't aligned with any particular denomination or faith organization. Um, yeah, and a family first philosophy that kind of ties in with the family first philosophy. So we don't proselytize in a religious way, but we take the family as paramount, and things that sort of belong with the family, we leave with the family. Steve, as I begged of you a week ago, if you find our current vision and mission, I invite you to post it in the chat for everyone to see. And that's a little picture there of an Ottawa Montreal field trip we did last year. So within the community of online learning in British Columbia, kind of alluded to this, we're one of 16 independent online schools in British Columbia. We have close ties with the other schools in the independent world, and growing ties with those in the public, because with some of these changes, we're kind of getting to know each other a lot better in both the public and independent side in terms of online learning. And the TLA community, we're always trying to do things to build the community, lots of field trips, these opportunities we call community classes. You may not see a lot in the bulletins the first two bulletins in terms of field trips, but I promise you there will be many, many opportunities coming up in terms of field trips in all different parts of the province. Speaking of the bulletin, I urge you and request that you take a couple minutes to read those bulletins that come out each Friday. That's where, when there are new community type events that occur, we post them first and sometimes only in those Friday bulletins with links to sign up and things like that. Any important announcements from Steve, Marianne, or Marissa from their respective departments in the library and the tech department. So we try to encapsulate everything in one weekly bulletin. We went this way a few years ago because just to help your inboxes. The volume of emails can be a little bit overwhelming, just in life in general, and you don't need your school sending you 15 emails a week to notify you of different things that may not pertain to you. So next slide. This is our staff. As mentioned, this is a photograph from our last staff conference in spring. Luckily, we had blessed with a very lovely sunny day, and most of our staff was on hand. And that is the square outside of where we do our mostly high school blended classes in at we call TLA Hawthorne in Cloverdale. So that gives you a physical size of the number of staff members on it. And wow, made my part nice and short so that the vice principals can take the time to explain what's happening in their departments. So we'll start with the K-9 department and Steve Borley. So over to you, Steve.
Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. A few details there about me. Been married almost forever, not quite, but 36 plus years now to my lovely wife, Claire. I've worked at TLA since 2003, and I've been vice principal of K-9 since July of 2012. I can remember that because that was the year I forgot to insure my truck and went 5 months with no insurance. And the fine I received was pretty much dollar for dollar equal to what I would have paid for insurance during that time. So it sticks out in my memory. I do have some interests beyond education, mostly outdoor stuff, hunting, fishing, sailing, camping, working with my hands, gardening this summer, stuff like that. So when I'm not in front of the computer, I'm usually doing something outside. So next slide, please. So most people come into the K-9 department and they start in one sort of program with their children, and they may lose sight of the fact that there are options in K-9. It's quite a flexible, complicated, easy to sort of lose your place in department because we have many different ways of working with your child to provide an education. Our largest and most flexible program is the home program, and it requires the most out of parents. So the more you want to be involved, the more you are tending towards the home department, the home system. If you want to be involved the least, then you would gravitate towards the online program. It's available for grades 7 to 9. The courses are all written by our teachers, taught by our teachers. All the assessment is done there by our teachers. So basically, it's very similar to if your child was going to school, except they go to school by logging in to our site and finding out what's required in their courses. And then there's a mix between both the home and the online system, or an alternative method to either one, and that's blended. You can have blended programs, which means your child would be in class a couple of days, up to 2 days of the week, and then in the home program the rest of the week. Or if you're in blended courses, they would be in a blended class or a classroom for part of the usual class and course time, and then they have an online course for the rest of the week in that subject area. The online courses that they have are different from the online courses elsewhere. Our online courses are all asynchronous, meaning students can work at them on their own pace, whereas the online courses that go with blended courses have all of the students working at one pace by and large. Next slide. So K-9 is often, the home program is often said to resemble homeschooling, but it isn't quite the same. You've got one teacher that works with your family. You've got the most input that parents can have. That's why it really resembles homeschooling. It's very individualistic or individualized, personalized. Uh, the teacher is there all the time, basically. Keep in mind the teacher is being paid about an hour per student per week. So if you find that you're hoping for a teacher to come into your house and teach a couple of hours a day, 5 days a week, that's not us. The home program in the older grades can include some online and or blended courses, but you cannot mix the home program and a blended program unless you figure out a way to clone your children, and then that could work. Next slide, please. So in the online courses, as I said, the teacher or the student would log in at some point, find out what was required in different courses. It may require that he stay on the computer to do some work, or he may have a textbook and some paper, generally more often on the computer. It's one of the reasons we don't have online courses for younger students. It's just a lot of time on a computer for a young child. There are some adaptations or personalizations possible in the online courses, but by and large, the courses have been written and they're there. You might change a novel in English, you might have fewer questions or so on to answer. But there isn't the same amount of parental input on those. Next slide, if you'd please. And then, as I said, in the blended, there's two different things that are blended. We blend a program, so you have a classroom environment blended with the home program where the child is at home. The same teacher oversees both parts. So there's a connection there, and we usually connect the two parts also using Seesaw, which is an online sort of glorified Facebook approach for education. We have 1-day programs and 2-day programs, depending on where you are at in the province. Prince George and Vancouver and Surrey all have 1-day programs, and then Surrey also has a 2-day program. All of our blended programs are multi-grade, so they're split classes, or in some cases K-7, so kind of a family approach. And then our blended courses are only available in the Surrey area. And again, most of them are split classes. So it's not like you just have a grade 7 social studies course or anything like that. And the rest on that is pretty self-explanatory. About a third of the course time is spent in class, and then you have an online course. So next page, and I'm done.
Wow. So now over to you, Mrs. I'll just call you Marianne because we're all adults here, and I hope your voice is better than it was last week when you had a terrible cold. So
yeah, it's getting better. It's still a cold, but I think my voice will last today.
Good stuff.
So this is me with my family. Been married to my husband Burke for 19 years. We have 2 boys, 2 girls. Our oldest is in grade 12, so I feel like I'm entering a new stage as he'll be thinking about post-secondary. We spend a lot of time on soccer fields or at different sports courts, and we love to do hiking and camping and outdoorsy things as a family. That's just a bit about me. So for grades 10 to 12 at TLA, there's a number of different options. So we have our online courses where everything is online. We have our blended where students can come down to our campus in Cloverdale and they do different classes. So we have, like, tomorrow will be the first blended class for some grade 10 students where there's humanities for 3 hours. There's a math class and a science class, and those courses are about an hour and a half. And then it's blended because you're doing the in-class work, but then there is still work that has to be done online at home to prepare for the next class. And then we also have a GAP option, which stands for Grad Adapted Program. And this is a paper-based program, and it's more for students who have a learning challenge. So it's a program that's kind of tailored for specific students. You don't have to do one and then that's it. So some students have a mix of blended and online, or I have some kids that are a mix of all three. So they might have a few in GAP, some in blended, some online. So it's whatever is going to work for the student is what we're going to set up for their course plan. Most students typically do their courses on a linear schedule, aiming for September to June completion. Students do have 12 months to complete their courses. So if they don't get it done by June, they can carry it over into the summer to finish it up. Some students do enjoy a semester approach where they only have to focus on 4 courses. So then they're doing 4 courses from September to the end of January. And then typically they would add 3 or 4 February 1st till June. With the courses, I often am asked, how much time should I be spending on my course? And for courses, I would say a minimum of 3 hours per week. An exception to that would be humanities, which would be 6 hours per week, because humanities is combining English and socials. So you are completing 2 courses in one, which means you're going to be doing double the work each week. The biggest key to staying organized in online learning is creating a bit of a timetable for the student or your child, or if you're the student in this meeting, is kind of looking at your week, Monday to Friday, and decide what hours you want to do your schoolwork and then create that schedule. So some students, might like to sleep in till 10 o'clock. So they're going to start their school day at 10 o'clock, and then they're going to schedule in their hours. So if they have 7 courses, and if I say 3 hours per week, they need to somehow make time for 21 hours of schoolwork in that week. Also super important to make sure they're scheduling breaks, like don't just do 5 hours of straight schoolwork. Make sure they're like maybe doing an hour of work and giving themselves a 10-minute break. Make sure they're scheduling time for lunch. Make sure your child's eating a good breakfast, they're drinking water. Good nutrition is also really important for them. And sometimes that can get forgotten when they're working online. They just get behind the computer and sometimes they're just in the zone, but make sure they are also taking breaks and feeding their brain. In their courses, there are schedules that they can print out that would say what they should be doing every week. So I highly recommend they go into the courses, find those schedules. If they can't find it, email their teacher for it, and then print those schedules out and put them in a binder. So it's not something they have to look for every time they log in online. So if they have their 7 courses, they're going to have a binder with their 7 schedules, and then on the wall, they're going to have posted their schedule. So it's Monday today, I have to do these courses. Now I'm going to look at my schedule. What should I be focusing on? So just some really good tips to stay organized. And you're probably going to find that they're going to need you to really help them through this in the first couple of weeks. And if you're feeling like you're struggling as well, just contact me and I'd be happy to meet with them online. They also have a TLA webmail that they can use to email teachers at. There's a chat that they can contact their teachers at if they see their teachers online and just want to ask a quick question. So making sure they know how to access their TLA webmail, which I'll show an icon to that later. And it's the exact same username and password for the hub for your webmail. Same username, same password. So next slide. So when they log in, they go to our website, schoolathome.ca, click Hub Login. They put their username and password, which you would have received via email. If you can't find it or you forgot it, there's a nice green box where you can click, I forgot my password, and request it here. Next slide. So then when they get to the hub, these are like kind of their most important icons. The first one, that orange box with the B, TLA Online, stands for Brightspace. So the platform that all our courses are in is Brightspace. So that will take them to all their courses. The blue one, they're not going to have to worry about. That's for kind of students who started 2 years ago and are still finishing up courses. Then that email icon takes them to their email. They have access to Google Drive, so they should be fine to do all their assignments in Google Docs, Sheets, slides, so they can make everything in Google Docs and Drive. I recommend they make a folder for every course, and then that just helps keep their Google Drive organized as well. And then there's a help desk icon, so if they need tech help. And new this year, they also have access to Canva, which is a really fun web design platform for designing really nice documents. So if they have to make something kind of flashy for a project, they can check out Canva, which is great. And then Destiny takes you to our TLA library. So a good link that if they're looking for some books to read or a novel, they could check that Destiny link and check it out from the TLA library. Or if your local library is easier, you can do that. But we do have lots of great resources in the TLA library. Next slide. One thing I mentioned about the TLA webmail is that there is chat, which is really helpful. But it can also be a bit of a distraction for students because students create these group chats. And then while they're trying to do their work, they're getting these pings all the time. So if you go to their TLA webmail in that top box, if they click that drop down arrow, they can set themselves to do not disturb. And if they're in do not disturb, they're not going to get any beeps until that time is up. So they could set it for 4 hours and they're not going to hear any pings from their computer, which should help them focus on their schoolwork. So just a little tip, because group chats are something that courses make. But it can also be distracting, but you might find your child is making group chats with some friends. So something that as a parent you should monitor. So the graduation requirements are a minimum of 80 credits. Students can definitely have more than 80, but 80 is the minimum. In addition to those 80 credits, they have to write a numeracy 10 assessment, a literacy 10 assessment, and a literacy 12 assessment. And there has to be one course that has an Indigenous focus. So next slide will be a grad planner, which lays it out nicely. So I will create a grad planner for all the students where we are School of Record for. And this is a document that they can also find linked in their hub. When they log into their hub, there is a link to their grad planner. So if you're brand new to TLA this year, it's not going to be there yet. So hopefully by the end of September, I'll have all new student ones linked. Has their name, their pen number, the date. By the time they get to grade 11, I'm going to start asking them their post-secondary goal, and we keep that on there. And we just track all their courses, making sure they're completing everything so that by the time they get to grade 12, they know they're on track to graduate. And they also are taking the right courses for their post-secondary goals. So in green are all the courses students typically take in their grade 10 year. So there's the Career Ed 10, their English 10, Math 10, Fine Arts or Applied Skill, Socials 10, Science 10, PE 10. Then in orangish are the required grade 11 courses. So you'll notice grade 10, there's a lot that they have to do. They don't get a ton of choice. By the time they get to grade 11, they're only required to do English 11, a Math 11, a Socials 11 or 12, and then a Science 11 or 12. And then the blue ones are what they have to do in their grade 12 years. So in the bottom, I have the electives. Because you're not just going to do 4 courses in your grade 11 year, you're going to fill up your grad planner with electives. So that's anything that isn't required. Electives are going to look different for every student. If a student is more geared towards just entering the workforce, their electives might look like foods, art, work experience, accounting, just courses that they enjoy that's going to give them credits. If a student is geared more towards the sciences, their electives might be more things like physics and chemistry because they're only required to have one science to graduate. Any additional science course becomes an elective. So electives just vary from student to student. In that elective section, I have 3 of them blue. That's because in order to graduate, they need English 12, Career Life Connections, plus 3 additional grade 12 courses. I have more purple boxes than are needed, so all those purple boxes don't have to be filled. And then at the bottom, we'll just check off when their assessments have been completed and their Indigenous Studies course. Currently at TLA, they can get that credit through Humanities 11 blended. And if they're a fully online student, it is through English First Peoples 12. And the English First Peoples 12 checks off the box for Language Arts 12 and Indigenous Studies credit. So only 4 credits, but it meets 2 requirements. So that's kind of an overview of the grad planner. And then at the end of a student's grade 12 year, we have a wonderful graduation celebration. At this ceremony, we celebrate students who have been traditionally homeschooled. We celebrate students who were on the Evergreen path and also students who did the Dogwood. So any student who's kind of reached the end of their program, we have a ceremony at Church in the Valley. And then we have a wonderful gala at Newlands Golf Center here in Langley, with cap and gowns, and it's a big party and it's super fun and a highlight for a lot of the students. Next slide. I think that's all I have. Yeah.
That's it. Thanks,
on to
Marianne. I jumped the gun there on your last slide. I know you like to get ready for that big reveal of
Yes.
the cap toss. So
Yeah.
thank you. Now, as Marissa wets her whistle, pass it over to you, Marissa.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Marissa Ang, and I've been with TLA since 2017 and have been on the admin team since 2020. So the newest addition to our TLA admin. Is a photo of my family and I. My husband Mark and I have been married almost 12 years, and we live in Vancouver. If I'm not behind my computer working, I'm often at my garden. So I love to be outside and be gardening. And if I'm not working or gardening, then you will find me at my local curling rink, which is one of my favorite things to do when I have a little bit of spare time. So there are a couple different ways we support students at TLA. We have the LSS department and the LA department. So if your child has an IEP, you might notice there's a ministry designation, either an A to H or a KPQ or R. So if your child has a KPQ or R designation, you're going to be supported by the LA department. The K to 9 LA department is managed by Steve and his team. And then the 10 to 12 LA department is overseen by Marianne. And I would be supporting and working with my team of teachers to support anyone who has an A to H designation. And if you're not sure exactly where your child would be supported by, either the LSS or the LA team, you can always just contact me, and I'd be able to help you figure that out and direct you to the right person, or talk you through the options individually. I'll give a little bit of a brief overview about how we support students, but obviously this is so individualized to individual students and their specific needs. So yeah, if you have any questions about your child or how we can support them, you can always fire me an email. And I think our emails are on the last slide of our presentation, so you can see it there. It's also on the website. I'll probably go to the next one.
Marissa, I'm just going to clarify.
Yeah.
This is supporting beyond the regular support that teachers would provide. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So this is like the additional layer on top of your already incredibly supportive TLA teacher. So this is a little bit of an older photo. I think I've realized we need to update our photo. We have a team of 24 teachers that we're working for this year. And we have just over 300 students right now that we are supporting as we go into the 24-25 school year. Okay, so what our teachers do is we do a couple different things. You heard Marianne and Steve both talk about the academic plans. The LSS teachers do the exact same thing for K to 9. So we're able to individualize curricular plans for your student, depending on exactly where they're at and the modalities that make the most sense for them as a learner. If your child is in 10 to 12, we're able to collaborate with those online or blended teachers and any accommodation. So we are able to come alongside your existing teaching team and offer supports, accommodations, adaptations to your academic plan. We also would be creating IEPs or individualized education plans, where we are looking at really specific goals for your child. And then once we have those academic goals and those IEP goals, we're able to create a therapeutic support plan. So looking at the different professionals we can bring in to best support your child, depending on their assessed needs, but also their observed needs. So the pieces that you as a parent and sometimes it's indicated on an assessment, the best types of supports for your child. And that is a very collaborative process. So if you've ever been in an IEP meeting before, we really work hard to ensure the student's voice is advocated for and also the parents. It's a kind of a really collaborative process between the TLA teacher and the parents to create the IEP and create the support plan. Perfect. So how it would work is you would have your initial IEP meeting with your teacher. Typically, we have those meetings in July and August. At this point, if you're new to TLA, we'd be having those meetings in the coming weeks. And we would be working within the ministry regulations to create the therapeutic support plan for your child for the year. Every week, you're going to be connecting with your LSS teacher to talk about how the IEP goals are going, the progress, any support needs that are changing, and any challenges that are coming up. And we're there to support you throughout the school year. And then we would have mid-year IEP meetings as well as end-of-year IEP meetings as a more formal summary of your child's progress through their goals. Our team for 10 to 12 students, we have a couple different ways we support students. Some of them are working towards their dogwood, working towards a graduation degree, where Marianne had mentioned, sometimes take a mix of blended or in-person classes or online or using the GAP program, but we'd work together with a team to help your child work towards graduation. We also have an evergreen program where it is a school finishing certificate, and we'd be working with your family to develop modified curricular goals and IEP goals and life skill development programs to best support your child as they work towards finishing school in a really good way. And both are celebrated enthusiastically at our annual TLA graduation, which is my favorite night of the year. It's so much fun. And that's me.
Great. Thanks, Marissa. Good. We came in at an average of under 10 minutes each. Those are our email addresses. You feel free to follow up with any of us. You can also just remember the info one. Oh, excuse me, I'm actually going to sneeze. No, I'm not going to. Okay, you can remember the info one or office at school at home if you're not sure who to email about something. But we're easy to find and we are very communicative bunch. I would say one of the great strengths of our school is this the working relationship that the four of us have here in our leadership team. It tells you something when our newest member, Marissa, has been now in her 5th year as one of the school leaders. So we've been working really well together for a long time. And let's see. Oh, that is the last slide. I was going to add, I forgot to add about the in the field trip section on Thursday. If you didn't see last Friday's bulletin, in the last 2 weeks, there's been a sign up for more information about our marine biology trip to Hawaii. Looks like it's probably going to happen, and that there's an info session Thursday night for that. Yeah, so I'm going to stop recording now. So if you think about any other questions that you may have,